There is another world, glimpsed only in childhood fantasy or in dreams you can't quite remember. This is a story from the Veilworld. Here Wodehouse left the orchard through a little gate opposite the entrance, and took his course up the fjell. He turned away north there, away from the mountains, and came up into the plains of Yeviske, from whence caribou come. There was a herd there, of course, tended by natives, but when they saw Wodehouse's sign of greeting, they parted ranks and let him through. "Carry these back for me, back to the lights," and he pointed to the caribou. The natives began to run, surrounding the herd, and they drove it down the cliffs, until the caribou tumbled end over end off the heights southward, or swarming over each other towards the lights of the sky. Wodehouse paid the herders in seeds, and they went their way, gladdened. Then Wodehouse caught the last caribou, a female, and sat her down on his knee. "You will help me a little, I think," he said, and fed her one of the seeds as well. Her eyes filled with smoke, and fire entered her nostrils. But as he smoothed the fur of her neck, her coat turned a glossy black, the color trickling down from the motion of his hands. In moments she was with calf, and then calving, and her calf grew rapidly into a burnished red bull. Wodehouse milked her, and had her breathe upon it, and under the flame the milk curdled and hardened into cheese. "Ha!" Wodehouse said, startled. "What a trade I have made! The best cheese for that of a mortal! Still, I am a man of my word, and I will deliver on my promise." He broke a piece off the wheel and fed it to the calf, who shook his head twice and became quickly a young man. "There is a daughter waiting for you in Olbori. Tend to her before you go your way." The young man nodded and thanked him, and then faded into the light and was gone. Wodehouse turned back to the caribou mother, and placing his hand on her eyes, pulled the smoke from it, and wrapped it under her eyelids, so that when she blinked, her eyes were coated, but not suffused. "And you, join your son," he said, and threw up his hand at her so that she ran off and faded away. Wodehouse turned back to the mountains west of him and climbed to the summit. There is no snow in that country, but ice, and that ice glows with all the lights of our night sky. Wodehouse found a waterfall that had frozen over, and broke from it one small icicle. Well, about the size of your thumb, little one. With it he returned to the cheeseman, who had sat trembling all night for the return of Wodehouse. "Here is our arrangement. A herd of reindeer with milk like that of cows. Your daughter cured. Food, shelter, summers and winters, and the power to melt snow. I have provided all for you. Come and see." There came a roaring from outside, and the cheeseman and his family stumbled out, despite the cold, to see their village filled with enormous caribou. All except the cheeseman's daughter, who lay stiff and cold and still in the house. Among the herd, the young man stood waiting. "Wodehouse! Master! She says she may not come." Wodehouse sighed, and his frosty breath reached into the heart of the cheeseman's daughter and extracted her soul. The young man leapt forward to catch her, and Wodehouse breathed again upon them both as she fell. Youth and daughter arose, shining like sunlight, until she climbed upon the back of the black mother caribou, gestured for him to join her, and the three of them melted away. The herd was moving out of the village now, and Wodehouse handed the cheeseman's wife a sack of seeds, and the whole village had gathered, watching. "Plant these in the tracks the caribou have left, and they will provide both shelter and summers. The winter has promised to retreat as you do, but you will eat none of them while they are seeds." Wodehouse turned back to the cheeseman, and the woman reached for her seeds. for one does not often keep Wodehouse waiting, or invite him by sign or statement to stay. There was a shriek, and the cheeseman's wife put a scarlet finger to her mouth, for the seeds had cut her when she had reached into the bag. When she tasted the autumn smoke residue, her eyes began to swell, as her mouth did too. The fire smoked within her and turned her skin black, and she became long and lithe upon the ground, with the seeds tumbling out of the bag beside her. Wodehouse looked at her a moment, and then handed the cheeseman the icicle, along with one final seed. "I would have traded you cheese for cheese. But go to your wife now, and you will both have power to melt the snow." The cheeseman, trembling, put the seed to his lips, and Wodehouse went in for the cheeseman's wheel. Man and wife writhed and blackened upon the earth, until, writhing, the man's clawed hand drew near enough his mouth for a forked tongue to dance upon it. The glistening body steamed and cooled, and the former cheeseman passed the icicle to his wife, who consumed it. She too steamed and cooled, and the ash in both of them turned to snow. They found wings for each other, those two, and Wodehouse saw them in the distance as he came up out of the cellar from his meal. The villagers were carefully pouring, seed by seed, the bag into the caribou tracks, and Wodehouse walked along his way.